Hey, it's George Fourie. Welcome to the Martial Arts Media Business Podcast. Today, I am going to feature an interview that I had on the Kyl Reber Podcast. So, Kyl, a good friend of mine, interviewed me. You can look him up on kylreber.com.au. Also, martialartsmedia.com/145. I had the pleasure of having Kyl on our podcast. And by the way, I was just looking at it. On episode 145, we were talking about him having 370 students. I know that number's almost up to 500 now. They are booming to put it mildly. Anyway, go have a listen to that if you haven't yet. And for this episode, I really wanted to feature this because I got to tell you, I've been trying to record a podcast where I tell a bit of my story and just background, where I came from, how this all got together, and I've given pieces and insight of this over the years. I just had a look. We had episode 150, and I actually started this podcast in 2016, July of 2016. So I'm probably in the race for the longest going podcast with the least amount of episodes, but 150 awesome episodes it has been. And I'm going to continue to do this for a while. Anyway, I've really wanted to have a in-depth just story about my story. And I tried to record it a couple of times solo by myself. And I got to say, it felt weird. I did it about 3 times. I deleted it every time. And then I got on Kyl's podcast. And Kyl gave me 10 questions to prepare for the podcast. And I did that. And I thought it was going to be enough. But Kyl's questioning technique was really solid and in-depth. And every time I answered, he dug a little deeper and dug a little deeper. Got to be honest, I probably spoke about things that I maybe just haven't shared over the years. Nothing too serious, but just things that I've kind of buried in my past and let go. But Kyl did a really good job in unpacking all the details about me and asking a lot of questions. So this podcast is going to be a bit longer. I highly recommend you check out Kyl Reber's podcast. I will have all the links for that at martialartsmedia.com/150. That's it from me. Hope you enjoy this. Would love to know your feedback afterwards. Let's dig in. One thing I told myself at an early age was, if I feel uncomfortable, then I'm at the right place. All right, something is happening here. Spot on. Gotta just get comfortable.
Good morning or good afternoon, whatever time of day you're listening to this podcast. This is the Kyl Reber Podcast, and this podcast is one of those ones that doesn't really have a formula. It doesn't have a demographic because everybody has a story. And as I'm starting to use the tag, I have a lot of famous friends that you may never know. But this podcast is aimed at getting inside people's heads and looking at the big picture. And what they may be on the surface may be very different to what's underneath. And there may be a lot of parts to these people that you may have known this person and now you can find out for the first time. So my next guest, I have not known for a great amount of time, but I'm getting to know him better as time goes on. And I'm finding he's an exceptionally interesting human. But I am probably going to learn more about him, and I've been on his podcast, so now I'm returning the favour, and he's coming on mine. So George Fourie, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Kyl. Thanks for having me on. That intro was, there's a lot of things there that you didn't tell me that I'm not prepared for. But as well.
As I said, we'll duck off on tangents as we go, and we'll do it as we see it coming. So for those who are new to this, there's 10 questions that George got a few days ago. Some of them he has to put a bit of thought into. Some of them he doesn't. Some of them I might prompt him. Some of them will duck off in tangents, and that's all part of the game. So the 10 questions start with number 1, which sometimes turns into the longest question. Birth to now in 7 minutes. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, 7 minutes. All right.
It's never 7 minutes, mate. Don't worry. It's like 30.
All right. So, born in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Great childhood, pretty much.
What part of South Africa?
Strand Somerset West, which will be about 20, 30 minutes from Cape Town if you look at it on a map.
Mm-hmm.
Home of the Great White is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
False Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you look at the bay, that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Played rugby. That's like compulsory in South Africa.
Did you grow up?
If I look at like significant things that I've really traveled back to and looked at where things happened in my life that steered me into different directions. My dad losing his job when we were 12. I remember us driving in a car and my mum telling us that our dad's just lost his job.
Mm-hmm.
We will be fine, which kind of was because he started doing maintenance work and so forth. And then he fell through a ceiling and broke his back.
Mm.
And that just took us on our family on like a interesting downward spiral for quite some time. It probably reinforced the thing that no one's out to get you. No one's out to help you. And you better make things on your own. So in country, I was always the kid with cash at school, but I also didn't sleep much because I worked like 3 jobs.
How old were you when you got your first job?
12.
Okay.
I was at the super tube, like a slide. And then I started delivering newspapers during the day, but then I figured that daytime was taking away the surfing time, so I started doing it in the morning. So I'd get up 4 a.m.
Okay.
And do my paper rounds.
So surfing took over rugby, or surfing and rugby at the same time?
Surfing took over rugby. It was a bit of a war at school because when I reached high school, I was like, "Why aren't you playing rugby?" I said, "I want to surf," and so it didn't go down well. And then I played rugby, and then I broke my collarbone when I tackled someone, and that really pissed me off because I couldn't surf. And so that was kind of rugby out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Surfing, drums, that was my 2 passions.
Okay. School in South Africa, we have an interpretation. So we're talking the 1980s?
1980s, I finished school 1995.
So what was high school like in South Africa? Was there still that, like again, we see what our interpretation is, but what was it like? Was there still that separation, or were you in an area that sort of acknowledged that there wasn't any, or what was that sort of like for you?
To be honest, I grew up in that era that I was pretty much unaware of what it was. It was just, we were divided. That is how
that was the way it is.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you would walk on the beaches and it will say whites only. That's the thing. And then I heard of this Mandela guy that's coming out of prison, and I was like, "Who's he?" And then the whole thing got explained. Well, this is wrong, and didn't really know it because it was just that, like, that's how it was, right? It's kind of strange because then you're like, "Oh, okay, hang on," but then there's still this confusion, and then that was the first time. That was probably like we finished school at about 18, at about around 16, 17. That was the first time people of a different color that weren't white actually came to our school.
Yeah.
So it was in the middle of that real transition of when things started to change.
Was it a big deal at the time? Was it a big deal for you, or was it just, oh, well, okay, that's what it is now?
It was a big, like with all things politics, there's panic. There was weird things happening. People would knock on your door and say, "Hey, we just want to check your house out because we want to claim this as ours." When Nelson Mandela comes into Yeah, like there was complete. I mean, like all politics, we can't go to politics, right? Because
No.
no. So yeah, there was a lot of that, and I mean, look, I mean, we've all got opinions. I feel it's got better and it got worse. In the, you know, if we look at where things are at now, yeah. So, but the country's come a long way, and there's a lot more unity, and it's changed a lot. It's definitely changed a lot.
It couldn't, yeah. I mean, like, again, not to get into politics, but it couldn't not change when all that was happening, wasn't it? I mean, for it not to change would have meant a lot of really bad repercussions. How did so high school finished? What happened then?
I hated school. I hated the rules.
You know, the amount of people that are doing these amazing things now that all tell me how much they hated school.
Well, I just didn't fit in. I didn't fit in with
it. Just wasn't you.
I didn't fit in with the thinking. I didn't. We coming from South Africa, there was a bit of a do as I say, not as I do philosophy throughout. Yeah, corporal punishment was the thing. I kind of preferred it because it meant I didn't have to sit in detention.
Got it over and done with.
Yeah, but I mean the rules, right? If my hair was touching my ears, fringe touching my forehead, that's like hair inspection failed. And I just didn't agree with it. And so I rebelled against this.
I was going to say, did you just not do it just because you can?
Kind of, probably that, right? And so it came to a point where they would have the hair inspections, and the woodwork teacher would say, all right, boys, look that way, George, get out. All in one sentence. I was like, what? And I'm standing there trying to hide, and it's not happening. So anyway, finished school, and I just needed to do nothing. Nothing meant serve, play drums, and work in restaurants. And that was okay. Then my dad said, look, you better go and get your life into gear. I said, well, I want to do marketing. And they were like, well, everybody does marketing. Can't go do marketing.
So why did that click with you? What was there something
marketing?
That when I really like doing this? Did you like talking to people, or just that interaction, or what was it?
It's probably just for all the failed entrepreneurial ventures that I took on during school, but it just it looked like path without a ceiling, where everything else sort of did. And yeah, there was just a part of me that I don't know, it just resonated with me. I didn't even know that much about it.
Because that involved a lot of talking to people. So would you say you're extroverted, or an introverted extrovert, or if you need to do it, you'll do it?
I'm probably more introverted. I'm extroverted when I have to be.
Yeah.
But it does tire me out, and I'm good with it, right? Like I'm okay to talk at events, host events, and be that guy. And it fires me up when I do it. But I do like my space to just focus and do the thing I want to do.
Okay. So when you did the marketing, I did it. You didn't? Okay, cool.
I got study computer programming. So everybody says, well, that's not the way to go. So I got study computer programming. And it was kind of funny, right? Because I get into the class and there's kids, they've clearly been programming since 2 days after they were born. And I'm like, where do I put this thing on? Like literally, like.
So this is late 90s?
This is 97.
Okay.
97.
So that'd be still in the, so that was when I was at university. So that's the era of floppy disks and massive computer labs and these things that, you needed 2 people to carry.
Yep. Yeah, so it took a while to get into that, but finally I did. And I enjoyed the technicality, the problem solving probably a lot. But 6 months in, I started selling computers to my classmates.
Was that a don't ask me where I got this from situation, or?
No. It was all like we signed up for a supplier. Me and a school buddy of mine, we found a supplier. And look, there was probably a bit of wangling of portraying we are way bigger than we are to get the account. But we got the account and we started, and so obviously I had a captive audience, and it was just, oh, this is great. And then when I finished studying, I was like, well, I want to crack at this business. I was going to open a business. So I was just over 20, opened a computer retail and support store.
Okay.
And my buddy and I went door knocking in the industrial area, and we just knocked door to door, hand out flyers that we printed out of our little inkjet, deskjet, whatever printer.
Yeah.
And we got a client. And we were like, yeah. So we set up, and I've got photos of this, but we emptied out their garage and we put like desks. And so we had this garage where we had this computer official business.
Yeah, right.
And then we got another client. And then all of a sudden, we got clients. And we became the talk of the town, like literally, because the guys that were deemed to be nothing, and, I had the headmaster tell me that we will equate to nothing in life.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like
And I guess, does that reinforce now, even, we won't jump too far ahead, but reinforce now, if you want something, you can't wait for it to come to you. You've got to make it happen. If you'd have sat in that garage and just waited for a client to come to you, it wouldn't have happened, would it?
Exactly. Yeah. And so, because, actually we set up the office before, because that's what you do, right? You do the procrastination things.
Oh yeah, you need the tidy desk. I'm just going to tidy my desk for the 14th time.
How many business owners start a business and then spend like 6 months on their logo?
Yeah.
Because everybody cares about that, right? So anyway, so we got going and we got good traction. And young to have all these business lessons, right? But we went all the way through to just before the year 2000, when Y2K, the computer crash. And I'd love to say it was that, but it was like me and my business partner having clashes and not understanding a lot of marketing and what we were doing. And sometimes he appeared a bit deceptive and people didn't like it, and so we had this clash of personalities starting to appear. And then we lost it all. Like, we lost it. And I was crushed, shameful, embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I just looked at this mountain of debt that I had on my shoulders. And so I was like, all right, well, took a few months of, we'll try this and we'll try this. But I had this permanent knot in my stomach of, I've got all this debt. I don't know how I'm going to pay things. So now I'm like, well, I've got to look for a job. I'm a little too dusty on the computer programming skills. That's not going to. So where do I find a job? So I start looking for jobs, and I can't get a job. So I finally get a job, commission only, something timeshare.
Oh God!
Right. So this is the part of the story I don't tell often, because when I say that, people are like, "Oh, you're one of those guys," or "You were." Well, I'm not. But so anyway, I get a job selling. So just to explain that entirely, vacation ownership, timeshare, like a holiday program. Not the guy that phones you up and say, "Hey, you won this free thing," but we sit at the desk, people come in, and we've got to present this product to them, and they buy or they don't. So anyway, I have this job for 3 months, commission only, and I'm that bad that I get fired. But I'm like, so all right, this is going well. But I'm like, there's something here. And so I see this other company advertising, time-based company, and I walk into this office, and there's a guy. He's about a year older than me, and I'm just early 20s, right? A year older than me, flash suit, like Armani suit, what? Really, you could say the cream salesman look, but he was like professional, right?
Yeah.
And I walked in there. Look, I try to draw from like false confidence and really portray myself as what I am. But this guy, Zane Ringquist, we're still friends on Facebook. he rips into me, right? He called, his BS meter was so dialed in, and he destroys me, right? And challenges me, like, why can you do this? Why, and I'm like, I can't remember what I said, but I remember walking out there shaking, and I walked to my car and I was like, I don't know what just happened to me, but whatever happens is I want to know what this guy knows about human psychology, understanding people, and being able to communicate. And the next day he called me and he was like, yeah, you're hired. And yeah. And 2 weeks later I made my first sale, and then I was like hooked on like what just happened, being able to send a product to people and then actually joining it. I was like, yeah. And I got hooked in this industry for many years. We traveled around in vans, like in a combi style thing, resorts in South Africa, and that was my life. I did, when I lost the computer business, vouch to never touch a computer again. That was out of my system. And anyway, life goes on. 7 years, 8 years. I move up to Johannesburg, and I break my neck in a car accident.
Okay, good one.
Yeah. The hemorrhage, that's the sort of lingering scar.
Oh, yeah.
And dents in my head. Yeah, so I break my neck and hemorrhage, and yeah, there I am in hospital. Didn't have insurance. I mean, so if you're in South Africa and you're in a public hospital called Joburg General, it's pretty grim.
I was going to say, one thing that was popping into my head then, the difference between Joburg to where you were growing up would have probably been a very different kettle of fish, wouldn't it?
Well, look, if I landed up in a different hospital, but with no insurance, like that's kind of where I landed up. And I just watched these people, like, I've been here for 2 months, it looked like no offense to anyone, I felt like I was in a homeless ward, and I've been stuck in there for months, just not being taken care of. And so I had the head injury. So I went from ecstatic laughing comedian, probably when I was, educated, to neurotic, losing my temper, blowing up and getting like rage, filled with rage. And I was trying to plan my way out because I was like, well, nobody else is going to get this. So I was interfering with the whole process. But anyway, 2 weeks in, this doctor walks in and he's doing like his checkup and goes through this paper, goes through the sheet, and he laughs. And I said, why are you laughing? And he says, well, guys like you that come in here, we normally don't operate. I said, why? He says, because you're dead in 2 weeks. And he walks out. Thanks. And my laughter, together with his, just went to I just went numb.
Yeah.
All right. And if anyone's listening that's ever had like a near-death experience, but that was probably the wake-up call I needed.
How old were you when this happened?
28.
Okay. So that's like not getting old, but that's getting, where maybe things should be happening that where society thinks things should be happening and then they're not happening.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm doing all right. You know what I mean? But I'm also partying a lot. So there's that aspect of life. And so I realized, well, I knew I've always wanted to leave South Africa, and like life is short. I just experienced that. And so I've got to get out of here. And so how do I get out of the country? Like where do I go? How do I go? And so the one thing when you're in the timeshare industry is you can get a job anywhere in the world, pretty much, but it's risky, right?
Yeah, of course.
But you got the skill to carry yourself through. And so I looked at Tenerife and Spain and everywhere. And then one of my old managers from Cape Town, he started working on Carnival Cruise Lines in the States. And it wasn't timeshare, but it was just, they were selling VIP cruise memberships, like a prepaid package. And I was like, well, this sounds interesting. And so I went down that track, applied, got the call from Arizona one night, and then, they accepted me. So I flew, got my ticket out, 2004, end of 2004.
So to jump back a section there, so have you got siblings, brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
Parents, how were they about you wanting to leave the country?
I think they were okay with it. In South Africa, you kind of, I can't speak for everyone, right? But I know from where I'm at is you kind of knew from day one that you're either in a family with money, right? That was not us. You're either going to become a doctor or a lawyer, or accountant, something super educated.
Yeah.
There's this vast difference in pay brackets in South Africa.
Okay.
There's like lower, there's like the middle, it's more sort of middle class, upper class. I'm just saying class. I'm just talking about.
I know what you mean, yeah.
In South Africa, there's this big gap.
There's a massive gap.
So, yeah. And those guys are normally exceptionally wealthy. You're either that, or you run your own business, or you're in sales. Like, I'm generalizing, but that's, there's obviously you can have sports careers and, but the way to the top it's a hard road.
Yeah.
And so if you're none of that, then your normal ticket out is go to the UK and bring back pounds, 21, and hopefully set yourself up, give yourself a start, or you leave and you're an expat, which is probably why you find so many South Africans just.
It is. You do see a lot of South Africans. Well, in Brisbane, you see a lot of South Africans. So you go back to it. You leave, jump on the cruise.
Yeah. So I'm based in New Orleans.
Oh my God.
New Orleans, which is just a nut crazy city.
Never sleeps.
Yeah. But so I'm working 60 to 70 hours a week on the cruise ships. But when you pull in, you're in the Caribbean for 3 days a week. So ship stops, I'm on holiday. So Wednesday mornings we're in Jamaica. Thursdays we're in Cayman Islands. And Fridays we're in Cozumel, Mexico. So there's exceptionally work hard. And then there's party as hard.
Work hard, party harder. Do you feel in that situation, like you're working hard, but you're also partying hard? Was it, to switch from party hard back to work hard? Was just, one of the things you did, or was it like
it was a bit merged?
Roger.
Because it's just a lifestyle, right? I mean, you live in
that's what I mean.
It's a bit of a bubble. It's a bit of a fairy tale, really. You're on a cruise ship. There's 3,500 new people every week. I mean, the job that we had, we were a concession on board, meaning it wasn't owned by the cruise line, which means I had a guest cabin from day one, guest privileges. So it was very comfortable in the way we lived. And you got paid US dollars, and it was great. And you don't pay for meals, you don't pay rent.
I was going to say, you wouldn't have to really open your wallet, would you?
Well, in the crew bar, you do every night. Or like $1 a beer type of thing.
Of sorts.
Yeah, so it's buy a round for $5 and I just bought a round. Yeah, so I did that for 6 months. Well, 6 months, went back to South Africa, flew back to Los Angeles, did Los Angeles for 2 weeks, then went down to San Diego, then got based in Vancouver, did the Alaska run for 3 months, did Hawaii, which was pretty epic because I wasn't allowed to work because we, guys that live in the States will be familiar with this, maybe not so much in Australia, but every state has a different law, and where the cruise ship leaves from, you're in that jurisdiction. And when you enter the new jurisdiction, if you want to do business, it's a different law. And so our company had jurisdiction in 50 states. And so when we entered the wine waters, I was given the option to leave or stay on board, cruise for free, live for free.
How is that even an option? I don't know.
Clearly. Yeah, so clearly I stayed on Hawaii, and then we rerouted to Mexico. In between this, so this is where the story probably draws we're way beyond 7
20
minutes.
I told you.
No, yeah. But I met a lady on board from Perth, Australia. I don't know how that goes. And I was actually planning to come to Perth on holiday. That was the big plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a son show up. And so I realized, well, I guess I'm moving to Australia. I didn't know how.
Got to grow up a little bit.
Yeah, I just realized, well, I've got my cruise ship days are at an end and I'm moving to Perth.
Yeah.
And so I had a holiday visa booked, right? So it wasn't like I had to arrange anything. It was interesting though, because I flew from Acapulco in the middle of the heat to Washington, D.C.
Oh, Jesus.
Snow to get my passport stamped the next day. Flew to Los Angeles, flew to Sydney, flew to Perth. And so, so I got to Perth and I'm on a holiday visa, right?
Mm.
And so I'm like exploring, well, okay, I've got to stay in Australia. And
What year are we in now?
2006.
Okay.
So 2006, so I'm like, well, how do I stay? So I go to the immigration office, and I never forget this guy because he had sort of had one eye, and I explained my story. Now, just a bit of a difference, right? In South Africa, there's like grey law, right? Mm-hmm. Grey law means that, well, there's a law here and there's a law here, but you can bullshit your way to that law, right? Everything is solvable with a good story. Australia clearly, as we all know,
you're right or you're wrong.
That or it's that. It's black or it's white. It's this. Yeah. Anyway, so I tell my story, which is a honest, sincere, valid story. But this guy pretty much says to me, look, anybody can get a girl pregnant to try and stay in Australia. And that's just not going to gel here. And that really rubbed me up the wrong way because I was like, man, I'm really happy to go. I'm trying to do the right thing here. How do we do this? And so it came to, I realized, well, hang on, like I've got to leave. Like, I had a no further stay clause on my visa, so I had to move. Yeah. So I flew to Bali for 8 days, came back, and I just got destroyed at the gate.
Yeah, you're right.
It was 4 a.m. and I walked, and the girl says to me, so you did a visa run? And I gulped because I was like, visa run? They actually know that this is a thing. Then she goes on the computer and she says, well, I see that you try to have your no further stay clause removed and we denied it. And so I'm the only guy there at 4 a.m. and everybody sort of starts gathering. And these guys just jump into me and I say, look, this is my story. And it is. And they interrogated me for about 30 minutes. And then the guy picks up my bag. And he says, okay, you're free to go. And he picks up my bag and he hears like something inside it. And he says, shakes it. He says, what's that? And drops my bag. And he leans in and he opens, and he gets a bunch of, I think it was spirulina. And he looks at me and he says, what's in this? And I'm like, spirulina. And he looked at me, and while he's looking at me, because he's trying to see if I've got a reaction, opens the lid and he throws it all out on the counter. Messy spirulina, obviously. And said, okay, you're free to go. And that kind of rattled me. So like, holy crap. And then my son was born, and I had to do it again. But this time, like, cash was running out. You know, I've been living off savings from the ship, and I did 3 days, and I got back, and I was so prepared, I was so nervous, and I said to the guy, look, this is it. He said, look, I believe everything you're saying, but we protect the visa, and that's it. I said, look, well, I'm going back to South Africa to sort this out. So I had about a year to prepare for my visa, and then, anyway, end of that year, I went back to South Africa. I was there for 6 weeks. I set the appointment. I got the appointment for the day before I came back to Australia. That's all I had. And I sat at that appointment and I presented. So I had this big file with everything indexed, and it was like perfection, right? Everything that was, and she went through and said, okay, well, we'll contact you. I said, no, you don't get it. Like,
I'm leaving tomorrow.
And if I get there, it's not happening. And then there was an Aussie guy, and he like looked through the file and said, hey, look, everything looks good. Come back tomorrow. We'll give you your visa. And that was my Australian visa.
Jesus. So Perth. So we're in Perth. We're allowed to stay and not continue to do visa runs. What has what's transpired probably from, what say, 2007 to now?
Well, a big thing that happened in that time was I bought a computer.
Oh, you gave in.
I bought a laptop and I started to learn online marketing because I couldn't work. Don't worry, anybody tax man listening, I didn't work in Australia, but I was online and I was learning how to. I still had my US bank accounts and everything, and so I started learning Google AdWords, how to do marketing online. So I sort of, that's where the passion of online marketing really started. Is, hang on, I understand the sales concept.
Yeah.
Here's this whole new medium where this happens online through pages, through websites. This is before Facebook and anything was a thing. It was MySpace. But I picked up a book from Perry Marshall, The Definitive Guide to Google AdWords. And I started reading this. Yeah. So 2007, when I got back, I got a job at a timeshare company, of course.
Would you believe?
Because it was just
That's what you know.
Yeah, so I got a job with Accord. They flew me to the Gold Coast. We did 2 weeks of the training, and so that set me up, and I was back in motion. But between this, I started doing online marketing, and I would be sitting at the resort at the Vines, and I would see all these PayPal notifications coming through because I'm making sales while I'm at work, and so this thing of leverage and time just started to, well, hang on, like this is working.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to give this a go. And yeah, and then I started the online marketing and such.
So fast forward to now, you're run a company, Martial Arts Media. Now, a 60-second blurb on that. What is that company?
Help martial arts school owners with growth through digital marketing.
And you're covering people from all across the world doing that. So you've got what? Australia, New Zealand,
Canada. Well, not Canada at the moment. US, Ireland.
Okay. Martial arts for you. What have you had? What's your experience in martial arts? The reason I ask this is one thing that's always got me with you is, and I think it's a good thing. You're not like you're helping lifelong martial artists run their business better. And I think this is the misconception. You don't have to be a lifelong martial artist in order to be a good businessman. They're two different worlds. And that is, I think, maybe one of your strengths. But you have done some martial arts before?
Yeah, I think it's worth just gleaning 2-3 minutes into the little gap there. So my son turning 5. I've never done martial arts. And I walked through a shopping mall. There's a bunch of guys promoting a program. And I like, this could be great for a kid.
Yep.
Awesome. And so I enrolled my son, got a trial, and I'm watching this class happen, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, this is, from my experience, I'm just looking at it through the lens. This is perfect personal development. All these things that I did about mindset and during my sales career, all the things.
So your business brain's kicking in?
Yeah, I'm thinking, well, this is happening in physical form, right? Well, not my business brain, just my parenting brain. Like, he's getting learned skills and lessons that he's got no idea what it is, but he's learning focus, determination, resilience. And I'm just watching this and I'm like, this is freaking amazing. And so he's 5 and he's training once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. And now it's just the thing, right? Like, he's training 3 times a week. And here's sort of where it starts to come together is I watch the guys doing marketing and I'm like, but if they did it this way. So look, at this time, we're talking 2011? About 10 years. I've been doing this for about, just more than 10 years, but unofficially. But there wasn't, as all this online marketing stuff wasn't that prominent in local businesses like it is today.
No.
But I had these ideas like, well, you can do this with these email campaigns. You can do this. I know how Google ads work. And so I said, out of the love of what they were doing, I said, I've got some ideas for you. I'd love to just share them. And I sat with him in the office one day and I said, hey, there's all these things you can be doing that you could just enhance your business. And they said, well, can you do it? I said, well, yeah, don't want to, but this is how it works. I said, well, look, we'll work something out. So we did it. And so I started doing one thing for them, and then they got the results. And then they said, well, can you do this? I said, yeah, I can. So and then we added this, and then we added that. And so all of a sudden, like, I'm spending all my time at this school. Like, my son's training, I'm chatting to the owners, I'm helping them. And so we're talking like over 2-3 years, right? Of this thing, it's just, I don't know any martial arts school outside this one place, right? And so that's my only perspective of the martial arts industry. But I'm just in love with all this that's happening. And so somewhere along the line, this was Graham McDonald, he said, hey, why aren't you training? And I'm like, that's a weird.
Good question.
That's, at that point, I haven't even considered it, right? It was like, I was like, so, and you guys were like, probably all the excuses you hear, right? Of a 36. I was 36 at the time. Turned 47 2 days ago. I was like, because I'm too old. I'm too broken. Like, I had all these things and okay. And then I tried a class and then I was like, oh. And so here I am. I'm just, without being cliche, but I'm hooked, right? Yeah. Because I've experienced all this from the sideline, and now for the first time,
you're in it.
I'm in it. Yeah. And so that sort of just became the thing. Now, like, this is consuming my life, right? I'm training. I'm training. My son's training. I'm helping the school. And somewhere along the line there, I realized, well, like, this is either got to be the thing or nothing. Like, I was working, doing other stuff. That's like a whole other tangent we won't go into, to supplement my income. But I felt that, like, I've always looked for the thing that I'm passionate about, that I love, that if I can put my marketing and sales skills behind it and promote a ethical, great product that enhances people's lives in a big way, well, like, that's a dream world for me.
Yeah.
And that was martial arts media. Like, it was born, and I decided, well, this is now going to be my life.
So when you realized that was a thing that could be done, and then you probably went out to other schools and, however that gestated and grew, was it, and I'm dissing my own kind here, was it alarming how, what's the word, archaic some of our clubs, well, some clubs were in their promotion, if they promoted at all, just to see what they weren't doing more than what they were?
Yeah, well, all hats off to Phil Britton and Graham McDonald. Like, what I didn't realize is they were just at another level at that time. Like, they had built a business foundation that was, like, exceptional, like way above the average school.
100%.
And so that was my perception of this is how the industry is, which I did learn later that there's a lot of guys that are way more sort of up and coming and working towards that. Like my coach spoke about it the other day. It's like how the typical, like, he was talking about a yoga instructor, how a typical yoga school is born, but it's the same as the martial arts, right? Is you start training, you fall in love, then you maybe teach a few classes, and then you think, well, I'm going to open my own school. So it starts as a hobby that turns into a business. So instead of you had the business mind, some did, or some, evolved that over time, but it's something that you sort of fall into. So, yeah. So with that, there's obviously a lot sometimes missing in the business side that comes afterwards, as such.
And this is the thing, like I said, and it's always a hurdle, even in, like, just the management of clubs and that sort of thing, and businesses. Just because you're the highest rank or you've been there the longest doesn't necessarily mean you A, know what everything you're doing, and B, you might be the best fit for the job. So was that a bit interesting sometimes, these people, I'm not being resistant, but you going in going, hey, look, I've been doing martial arts for a blip on the radar, but I reckon you could run your business better if you did this, this, and this?
it's funny. It's normally someone else that does coaching that would say, "You're not a martial arts school owner. How can you help martial arts school owners?" And I'm like, well, nobody's asked me how to run a better class yet. So
that's the thing, and that's your niche. Is you're not doing necessarily this is how you teach a kick better or a choke better or whatever. You're doing this is how you get more students. This might be how you work with your staff better. This might be how you promote better, run your ads better. That's your thing, isn't it?
100%. It's. I mean, I'm very open about what I don't give advice on. But as you know, we have a community where I know that advice is there, and
that's doing itself.
Yeah, that comes from the school owners like yourself and those guys who've been at this for 20 to 40 years, and they've got the experience and they've done it all before. That's where the whole mastermind concept really becomes of value. But for anybody that's really passionate about marketing and really cares, and I'm not talking about the guys that buy a course and then I'll pick a niche. Yeah, that gripes me a bit. Like, you know, when people like they chase the thing because there might be money there. Like, I don't gel with that. Like, I started it for different reasons, and although I know my journey to martial arts is different, I value it as much. And I feel that if you spend enough time, like I have, understanding problems, what people are going through, and having enough conversations, and you detached from being in the motion of running it, you do come with different perspectives and different solutions. And I guess it's the programming that I learned in programming is you always look to solve solutions with systems, and I just find I'm just way more passionate about it because I love the product and I love what martial arts does, what it did for my son, what it did for me. That's where it all comes from. And if I think my time I spend, I mean, I'm talking with school owners like yourself, at least, I mean, we have 3 to 4 Zoom sessions a week, anything from 6 to 10 hours per week. And so from that, I gather understanding and then go to the drawing board and say, okay, well, how about we do things this way, or how do we go about it this way? And it is ever evolving, because if we look at what we're doing now, prior COVID, don't want to say that word in case you get flagged on YouTube or anything. But if you think of how the market sophistication and everything develops over time, it's forever changing and evolving. And it's good to have the good guys win, right, with the right tools.
And I think that's the thing. Like if they, and like the interesting thing there is you saying how you're learning sometimes from us as much as we're learning from you, because there's systems that we've done for 20 plus years, and I think it's good. Sometimes we even had a conversation before this offline. You challenge that. You go, well, why do you do that? And it's just like, well, that's just what you fucking do. And it's like, well, why does it have to be what you do? Like, and I think that's good, because at the end of the day, we are passionate about martial arts. We are, lifelong martial artists, but, it's, none of us, I think you can pick apart somebody who is really just in this for the money and they don't last long. But then the people who are passionate about it, it does also still need to pay the rent. So there is another area that we need to make sure we do focus on, because, you have to let your passion pay the bills, but you've also, the bills don't stop coming in.
100%.
Well, I told you to be more than 7 minutes. Wasn't that long? It's nearly lunchtime. All right, let's get into question 2. 3 reasons you get out of bed every morning.
I live in paradise. I've moved from Perth to the Sunshine Coast.
Was that a hard move or an easy move?
Easiest, best thing I've done ever. Waking up at the crack of dawn, ocean, sticking my feet into the sand, having a swim. That's reason number 1.
You're an early riser?
I don't think I'm naturally. I can easily get carried away and burn the midnight oil. But because I value the morning, I do not. It's getting easier as I get older. Crash.
Yeah, exactly right.
And I've got a 17-year-old son who's like, he's up at 4 and he goes to go surf.
Yeah.
And when I hear him leave, I'm like, the guilt kicks in. Or like, I sleep light and I hear him leave and I'm like, I guess I better get up then.
Are you you're not surfing as much as you did when you were a kid?
I am. I've got an annular disc tear at the moment, which is throwing a bit of complications in all activity. So a little bit depressing. There's no jiu-jitsu at the moment, and there's no surfing at the moment, and there's walks and swims in the ocean.
It's what you can do. It's what you can do.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's made me appreciate that even more. Just the fact that, I've got to get out. I've got to get in the ocean.
Like you said before, you were talking before when you had that chat to Phil and Graham that you're 36 and you're too old. Now you're 47 and there's still all these things that you're doing. As we've had many discussions, I think I always look at my parents, and then you probably might look at your parents, what their movement patterns were when they were 47. It's not what we're doing.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's your attitude towards it. Have you got a number 2 and 3?
Family and kids. Get on with them. Making sure we connect first thing in the morning, sometime in the morning before the luck scatter away. And then number 3 is, I'd say the business. Just business is a passion. It is this blended thing, and problem solving, creating solutions for martial arts school owners. That's a thing that I get up and I get.
When you say it's a passion, clearly you're deriving income from it. But what's made it a passion? Like, what defines it as a passion for you over this is just a means to an end?
It's probably the outcome that it delivers. If I had to go and take my skills and do real estate at the sheer numbers of what the return on investment would be, it's the same skills applied to a different problem with a slight different funnel and a different application to it. Yeah. But it's the same principles really applied. So if it was a money thing, that'd be easy, right? Because you take the thing elsewhere. There's a few things that I guess makes it the passion. It's the freedom of the way I live. I get to live when I want, Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, because you're, 95% online?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, there's that. But then when I'm not, there's... Oh, you mean as in the business itself?
Yeah, as in working. So you work from home, and to leave and go somewhere, you will do that. But one thing that I thought about before, probably with a lot of the work that you've had, you've never really had an office as such. Like, you may have had one initially in that garage, but other than that, you've pretty much just worked your sort of own hours and own space.
Yeah. I did have a co-working office in Perth, and I had one that I just moved to the Sunshine Coast because I needed a place to send mail. But the first time I did that was really because my daughter was born, and I realized I'm not going to get anything done here. Yeah. So a lot of good has come from that. But I played with the idea. I saw a friend of mine get a nice office space in Mooloolaba, and it overlooks the ocean. This is tempting. But then I've got to go there, and I've got to, now I'm adding an extra 40-minute commute.
There's still the process involved, isn't there?
Yeah, where I can just come back, good coffee at home, and the freedom of being here, but also if let's go travel, I can make the space at the time and I can still run the business. I don't need to shut the business down. And sometimes people say, oh, you need to take a break. I'm like, hang on, I built this thing that I don't need to escape from it. Like I can get on a plane. I'll probably do it over the weekend so that I don't disrupt my calls. But I can change countries like within a week and continue the business and everything will be good.
And the people that say that, they don't really understand that maybe they've just never been exposed to it like us, that in order to get to where we are or where we want to be, there's that element of, 7 odd days a week. And, we may be, I had this last year overseas. I was like overseas doing Zoom calls. I did one with you. And then we did, I did a couple of other, stuffs going on. People going, why are you doing that? And I said, well, I do an hour Zoom call and the other 23 hours I'm in Thailand enjoying myself. I think that's a fair trade-off.
100%. And being able to do it more frequently than anyone else. Look, there's obviously some nice aspects in having a job that when it comes 5 o'clock, you can completely switch off. But I just don't think I'm ever been wired.
No, I don't think some of us are built for that.
Yeah, I think that's just all of us that are entrepreneurs, right? You know that you can't really turn it off.
No, I don't think it's ever off. You're in the shower thinking about something. You're walking, down the street. You're driving the car. Like, there's always something in your mind. All right, my friend. Number 3. 2 guilty pleasures that you have.
Coffee.
Mm-hmm. How many a day?
3. I could turn it down.
Go to mix.
Go to mix. Oh, now you're asking. I don't know. I have a flat white.
Yeah, so just a flat white.
I buy beans where I've got a nice coffee machine below. So if I drink a good coffee somewhere, I'll buy the beans.
Okay. So you're a grind the beans like full blown in the house. You're not just to stick a pot in and push a button. You're that guy.
Grind the beans.
Okay.
I do the things. Really bad latte art, but
do you find that? What am I saying? Do you find coffee is a source of inspiration? Do you find you work better after you've had a coffee?
Yeah, and I hate to have the dependency. And then I think about that often. I used to, I got this from one of our old clients, Amanda. She was like, avoid coffee the first 2 hours of the day. And I always used to do that. And then I've been hosting really early coaching calls, like 6 a.m. for me, which it kind of works. It's the time I can pick works across the world in the best way. And I do find it throws me a bit off. If I start having coffee too early, it probably messes with the adrenals a bit. I enjoy it, but I am conscious of the stimulation.
It's whatever works. You got a second one?
Probably can't call it guilty, but surfing is, that. Surfing and jiu-jitsu probably tied. It's just both are non-existent as we speak, which,
So again, a guy who's had exposure to many different martial arts schools, different styles. What has jiu-jitsu got for you? Not to say it's better than any other, but what has it got that's kind of clicked with you?
So what's interesting is when I did karate, I started doing Muay Thai, and I loved it. I loved Sendokai and I loved karate, and Muay Thai. And it was always lingering to me the fact that I've had this hemorrhage. And so I went to go see a neurosurgeon. I guess you're never going to see doctors, right? You should just avoid them because they always tell you. But he had one of this take his glasses moment off and said, look, dude, you can't get punched in the head. Like the chances of you injuring yourself really it's not on. So I didn't like that, obviously. So I kept training, and like I spoke to the guys, and like, okay, when we spar, just don't hit me in the head. But then guys will say, well, hit me in the head because this is weird. And so now it became really weird. Like I'm punching guys in the head and no one's punching me. And so I just felt like I was doing half-assing it. And so I thought I would try jiu-jitsu. And so I kind of hated it. I was like, man, I don't know what's going on here.
It's incredibly, it's like, and this is the thing, like our demographic is older here in our mornings, for example. For an older male who hasn't had that sort of exposure, and like you played rugby and that sort of thing, but to have another guy on top of you and you just can't get them off, or like there's just that feeling of just, I call it the two H's, helpless and humiliated. Like it's incredibly confronting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Probably even harder if you come from that rugby, and I'm probably, look, I'm not a big guy, but I'm not a small guy either. And if guys are like 20 kilos less, there's still this aspect of, well, can I out muscle? And when all that fails in jiu-jitsu, that's double confronting for me.
I've got nothing.
Yeah. All right. So look, it was probably part of that as well, but just, I guess just not understanding what was going on. And so it took me 3 months of really training, forcing myself to do it, because I was like, I love martial arts. I know I can't do that. I'm going to have to do this.
Yeah.
And then slowly I got hooked. For me, again, I've referred to problem solving a lot. Programming.
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and I don't know if maybe it appeals to that analytical brain of having to solve problems and like that challenge. And also, I guess it's this unreachable goal. Like it's just never done. You never feel good at it. I mean, do you feel good? I know you're good, but
I think there is no, it doesn't. I think there is a constant from someone who's been doing jiu-jitsu in particular for 22, 23 years, I think. There is never, like, you can, the whole hammer and the nail thing, which can be quite cliche, I think. But yeah, there are days where you just go, I'm killing it. And then literally within 24 hours, you come and you go, what? I suck. And I think that's the thing, the beauty of, jiu-jitsu and martial arts in general. There is just never a point where, like, that phrase where it ends up. I don't think that's actually a phrase. Like it never ends up. It's always going, like, and then you can be a higher rank and an older guy, and you have this, 19-year-old purple belt come in and he just destroys you. But then the problem is you go, okay, so I've got to cross from the physical brain into my like spiritual brain, and what can I do to combat that? So yeah, we could do a separate podcast on that. But to answer your question, no, it never gets easier, whatever that word is. One thing I always say is it never gets easier. You handle hard better. So I think that's that's one thing I took away from a presentation I saw a little while ago. But and I think, like you said, you have this issue where you can't do it at the moment. There will come a point where you can do it again. And I think that's the thing that I think we don't bear in mind. Martial arts doesn't have seasons. And, if I remember a mentor of mine said this years ago, he said it during the Big C. He said, if I've been doing, at the time he said, I've been doing martial arts for nearly 60 years. If I miss out on training for 6 or 7 months, that is just a blip on the radar. It doesn't even register.
Interesting, yeah.
So I said that's the way he looks at it. That's good, mate. I mean, look, it'll come back sooner or later. The surfing side of things, is that just a little, because surfing is a one-man sport, I guess you'd say. Is that just your little time alone in the wilderness too? You versus the ocean?
Probably, but I mean, I started surfing when I was 12, and like if you had to zoom out, there's big gaps where I did nothing. Lived in Johannesburg for 3 years, or lived in Perth, and like struggled to get good surf and got a bit frustrated. So there's been these gaps where it's like completely been removed in my life. It's kind of the same, I guess, in jiu-jitsu, just in a smaller scale, but it's always there and I always go back to it.
Yeah.
It's probably very similar in that it's never done. You're always improving.
Yeah.
There's always a challenge, there's always something out there that can keep you humble. The ocean is very humbling.
Yes.
Very humbling. And if I think of just life and death situations I put myself in, sometimes probably just young and stupid, but I don't do that as much more, but I really find just enjoyment in it. There's being in nature. If someone's got choking you, you can't think of anything else. Kind of in the ocean as well. You kind of, you just one in nature.
It's you and the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Very good. All right. Question 4. One thing you bought that has literally made you happy every day after.
Coffee machine?
I was trying to say it's the coffee machine, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, to add a different flavor to it, recently a Weber. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good. I don't know if you saw, I was gifted a tomahawk steak on yesterday, and I cooked that on the Weber last night, and that was just amazing.
I saw that. Yeah, that gave me some ideas because I'm a rump guy, but
beautiful. What's your go-to? Will you do are you learning the versatility of a Weber, like the roasts, and you can do all this other stuff with it?
Yeah, I got a book for Christmas, but I don't want to go on this tangent, but I made a significant diet change last year because of kidney stones and stuff, and I'm been on a carnivore diet for about 6 months, and so I pretty much eat steak every day.
And the Weber would be servicing those needs quite well.
It doesn't. It's to perfection.
Very good. Very good. All right. Now, question 5. One thing, you've probably got a few of these. One thing everyone thought you were crazy doing, but did it anyway, and it paid off.
Well, I wrote martialartsmedia.com.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably leave it at that. I mean, we could take probably like every business, right? Every business you do. But yeah, probably martialartsmedia.com if I think of the thing that paid off as well.
So is there someone, not to name names, but was there somebody or a group of people when you said, I think I'm going to make this a thing, that went, no one, how do you even believe you'll make any sort of income out of that?
Yeah. Like a lot from within the industry, which was surprising. Got a lot of slack within the industry, which was confronting in itself at times, because the path that I, not being a martial arts school owner from the get-go, I started the podcast, Martial Arts Media Business Podcast. That was my ticket to really learn about artists, and because I knew nothing. So my positioning was probably a bit off, because I was like, I know nothing, and I just need to get all the knowledge. But yeah, I guess sometimes I ran into things that I didn't expect, and that
would you get a bit of that? And we've touched on this earlier, but did you get a bit of that? What would you know, kind of thing, like that sort of resistance?
It's funny when I get it, because I got it recently, and it's a guy that's just started coaching, and it's always funny that when people start in the business of coaching, that's their differentiation point is, can I pull everybody else down? And so that makes me a prime target. I get it. So yeah, I do get a bit of that, and I should probably play them this podcast if that's the case, because they'll maybe And maybe I haven't been that upfront with my story, because sometimes I do have to tell people that I'm not a school owner, and they're like surprised. So there is that. Yeah, I mean, as I explained, yep, I'm going to get backlash. I'm probably going to get backlash. We're always going to get backlash, right?
Oh, haters are going to hate. And that's the thing, like, I think, but the group that you have created, from everything I see, they seem to be a group of people that, you know, I mean, you're always going to get people that are resistant to change. And like you said, the longer someone's been in the industry, probably the more resistant to change. But, you know, from my experience, I'm very clear that there are things that I don't know. You know, like, I'm not going to ask you to jump on the mats and teach a Muay Thai class of 30 people, but I will ask you, because I don't know it, how do I run this better? How do I do this better? It's the same old thing. Like, if you want to, you know, if you don't know your way around cars, you take your car to a mechanic to fix it. You know, you don't open the bonnet and go, I reckon I can fucking do this. You know, like that's probably, and sometimes for people, that's very hard for them to make that admission and let that go.
Yeah, I think it could be, a lot of it is caused by me and marketing too. You know, it's really easy for somebody to go into my podcast and, let's say, see 5 videos where I talk about marketing and business, and that is a teach. That is where I am actually teaching something, where that could be perceived that that's always how the conversation evolves. Like, I'm the guru that knows everything, that's always saying. But in actual fact, when I deal with school owners, I think it's a lot less of me and more of them. It's more of understanding, and it's not a top-down sort of command and conquer way of coaching. It's more of understanding and being able to help people go from one, get out of their way. It's funny that a lot of people see me as the guy that does the marketing, you know, like, and I help school owners with marketing. But if I think of the thing that makes the biggest impact, is the thing of self-worth and pricing.
Yeah. It seems to be like, and we just spoke about this offline. It's it's almost like a taboo topic, you know, because we can't talk about that, because for a lot of martial artists, it may go against our core values. But as I'm learning myself, at the end of the day, the rent has to be paid. Everything goes up, and, like, you know, the worth.
Yeah.
You talk about someone that's been in another field for 30 plus years, you know, they would be on this level here, yet for whatever reason, we so often undersell ourselves.
Yeah, Kevin Blundell says it best. You know, like, it's okay to be in the part-time hall and teach and do it for charity and do all that. But the minute you charge $1, you've got an obligation to fulfill a service.
Yeah. And
you can't fulfill much for $1. So you have to be realistic about charging what you're worth to be able to fulfill the service. And you can see it if you look at a lot of schools that do charge a premium. They are the best schools. I don't think you can, and just perception of that as well, right? I know this is such a touchy subject, and I've got to be careful what I say, because it's so easy to take it out of context. But you can't be the cheapest and then tell me you're the best. Like, why isn't a Mercedes 10 grand? Why isn't it, you know, why can't I buy the AMG for 10 grand? Why is it more expensive than the Kia? They both are great cars. But who's the best? And that's if you want to be the best, even. I mean, if you don't, none of this is like, it's got to be this way. But there is value in pricing in itself. And if someone is struggling to make rent and trying to do this full time, and it's just not working, well, then you've got to be open to looking at different ways of how you can make it profitable, so you can be rewarded for what you do. It's not evil.
You would see, well, I don't know what percentage, but it'd be a lot of people who come across to you or you just converse with there would be people grossly undercharging and underselling themselves, wouldn't there?
100%.
Do you think that's a bit of a, I said it before, like just a bit of a tradition in martial arts? We're meant to be the nice guys. And this is, again, like, I'm going to have to be careful that I don't take stuff out of context, but it's something that I'm learning, because the first thing is when we charge more, we're accused of being money grabbers or whatever, or now it's all about the money. What's up?
By who do you get accused?
The people who aren't coming, the people who aren't paying, and then it's always interesting. There's this group of people that, if you are charging, a group of people that will complain about the price, and there's obviously reasons for that. But then there is that other group of people that just don't bat an eyelid because they see worth on what you're doing. And I think that's the big thing. Like we talk, so much about self-worth and being worth and worthful. And yet here we are as the leaders, we're not putting that worth on ourselves. It's something that I know I still come to terms with. And I think when we started working together, I think it was literally the first real conversation that we had together was, and again, it's not what are you charging, it's what are you worth?
And what are you getting in return? There's lots for me to say about this. If I think of the holding back, like what holds you back? Again, if we look at the pathway, it started as a passion, became a business. Now you've got to put your business hat on. Now you've got to charge. Some people have beliefs from back in the day that's carried over about money. Money's bad. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money grabber. Then you get the tall poppy syndrome, I've got less than you, so I've got to drag you down. And it's so prominent in Australia.
Yeah, it is.
So you've got that. And then let's say your leaders, your instructor is, did it for love or passion and never built a business. And now you're exceeding him in student numbers and wealth. And you've got to watch that you don't step out of line. So it's like there's a lot of odds against you to be successful. And then martial arts school owners that should be supportive can probably also be the worst and pull you down or say, "Oh, you're better than us," or "We're the cheapest," or whatever angle to try and differentiate instead of being complimentary towards that.
Crazy, isn't it? Just because of the amount of experience, you would see, like Kevin Blundell you were talking about before, the amount of years and time that has gone into that. And again, you'll pay, I don't know, for a tennis lesson or a horse riding lesson or whatever, or a surfing lesson, and quite often they can be more expensive. And that's not to say that they're not worth as much as what we do, but you sort of go, well, they charge that and people don't blink an eyelid, yet I'm deliberating over putting my price up $5. If you'll go across the road here and buy a coffee for $6.
So for anyone that struggles with that, you just got to get clear on your reason why. Reason why you're charging that or why it needs to go up. You're doing X, Y, Z, and this is why we're going up with this. That's a good place to start. What is your reason why? And you've got to get comfortable with that. I kind of always feel, and maybe this is, because of that history in the timeshare industry, where this things like this was built into your head, that it's never about the money. And it's always said it's about the money, but it always comes down to the value. It really comes down to the value. And we used to see that in with what we used to do, that people will find money. If they see that they've got a struggling marriage and they know that this is going to force them to take vacation time and spend together as a family, they'll find it. They'll find it.
If you want it to work, it'll work.
Exactly. And now when we look at something like martial arts, the thing that you've always got to look at is, well, what phone do they have? If they've got one of these iPhones, what are they paying per month for that? Do they need it? Probably not. what else are they spending on that they don't need? That's irrational spending. So if the need was bigger and it was that important to them to do this martial arts training, would they find the money? Is it really that expensive that it's out of reach? Now, I'm not saying everybody doesn't have the same situation, right? But if you can present it in that way and people know the value in it, then would they sacrifice something? Is there something that they can sacrifice to make it happen? And I'm not saying overcharge. I'm just saying charge your worth. There's a big difference.
I think there's a massive difference, and I think it's a thing we get. Well, look, I know, I get it mixed up, like, because I'm the guy that, regardless of how much I've done, I'm still like, and I'm like, I remember recently I had a conversation with someone about this, and they said, "Are you justifying it to them, or are you justifying it to yourself?" And I said, "Oh, it's definitely the second one. It's definitely the second one." All right. 4 things you cannot live without: animate or inanimate. Coffee machine?
Coffee machine. The ocean.
Mm-hmm.
The Audible app does me good on my phone.
Mm-hmm. What are you listening to at the moment?
Scientific advertising.
Oh, Jesus. That's a lot of big words.
I've gone back into a big mission of digging up all my old marketing books, and so I'm just getting into the fundamentals of copywriting again. And
okay, you're a guy who gets the most he can out of a day. Do you listen to Audible like at that 1.5 speed, 2 times speed?
No. Sometimes at 1.25, but I
tried it and I just went, oh my God, this is too hard.
Because I find I need that pause to just reflect on what I just heard.
So do I.
And so it's not like I just want to try and get it in my mind. I actually kind of enjoy listening to it. No.
Have you got a 4th one?
I don't. Steak knife. A good steak knife.
A good steak knife. Well, if you eat a lot of steak, you need a good steak knife. There's nothing worse than having a nice steak and a shit knife and you can't cut it up properly. That's big. It's accessories, mate. It's accessories. Number 7. If you were not doing what you were doing in life right now, what would have been option number 2?
Full-time drummer.
Full-time what?
Drummer.
Yeah. Okay. Favorite band favorite band / demonstration of drumming prowess?
Tool?
Okay. That's not what, I gotta say, that's not what I expected from you. What did you expect? I don't know. I would have, maybe a little bit of, Black Sabbath or Led Zeppelin, but, like you jumping.
Zeppelin? But Tool is just, it's on a level of its own.
Have you ever seen them live?
Yeah, it was the week before the Big C shut everything down.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
It was the last thing I could see in Perth.
I saw Maynard James Keenan just got his black belt in jiu-jitsu too.
He did. Yeah.
Okay. When you say full-time drummer, was the concept of joining a band ever there, or did you just play them loud in your bedroom and drive your parents nuts?
Both. I played in a few bands with my school buddies.
Yeah,
we were pretty good. We got number 10 on the local charts.
Okay,
national South African charts.
Okay, a win's a win.
A band called Ordeal.
Oh, that sounds deep. That sounds pretty deep.
It was. I had a guitarist, vocalist John sounded like Scott Whelan from
Stone Temple Pilots.
And our guitarist could play every Metallica solo backwards, like Kirk Hammett, crazy, and it was fun days.
Okay.
I really tried to venture into that career. Like I played drums every day, every night. bands, and it was just after I'd lost my business, there was just too much on my back to even think that I'm going to take this on as financially viable.
Do you have a kit now? That you muck around on?
I've got a electronic Roland ED8 that I thought,
if you stick the headphones on and just look like an idiot.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Rock star with the music playing.
Yeah.
Depending on how bad I'm playing in the day, depends on how loud the music.
Is there a song that you will play to on drums that just lights your fire?
Oh, there's lots. I mean, there's lots. There's a lot of old jam.
Mm-hmm.
Queens of the Stone Age.
You're really showing your 90s grunge flavor there.
It's all of those. All louder stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mainly Kyl Reber's funk, rock, Jane's Addiction.
Wow. Yeah. Now, see, this is a side of George I just didn't see. It's interesting. We share a lot of music tastes. Very good. Very good. Question number 8. Oh, I think we've kind of answered this, but let's give it a crack. One time you have backed yourself when everything was saying to just give up.
Yeah, it was martial arts media. I guess if I had to give it more context, there was a stage where I had parted ways with like the school where I trained at, and I was sort of in this middle where like there was no clients. Like I had the podcast running, and I was like, that was probably the one time I felt like, man, am I like, is this happening? Am I being a fraud to myself? Because it's like I don't even have a client base where I'm actually doing this at this. I mean, we're talking about a month where that happened.
Yeah.
And then flew to Sydney, and I met up with a bunch of other school owners, and it recalibrated and got momentum again. But that was an interesting time because it was, really looking yourself in the mirror and like, am I nothing? Yeah, I'm providing absolute no value.
So you find, I mean, like, so you work with, like, not to get back to that pricing discussion and your worth, but do you find that's one thing you see in a lot of school owners when you start working with them? There's this, and I mean, I could say I'm in this bracket, that level of, vulnerability. Like, we have this persona, but inside we're like, I just don't know if I can do this. Like, I just don't know if I've got what it takes to actually do this.
Yeah. Like, one of my coaches once said this, I guess what's easy to do, right, is you hang on to the old George or the old Kyl too long. There's growth, and then, like with all growth, there's always it's imposter syndrome, right? You're at a comfort zone. Like, I mean, everything happens in breaking out of the comfort zone. Like, you're in the comfort zone, and every time there's growth, it means that you're in a new comfort zone, and now that means there's discomfort. And, humans will fight like hell to stay in their comfort zone and have that little voice telling you, you've got to get back. You're out of line. You don't belong here. And so you've always got to, like, one thing I told myself at an early age was, if I feel uncomfortable, then I'm at the right place.
Yeah.
All right. Something is happening here.
Spot on.
I've got to just get comfortable.
We've got to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, we could have a full conversation about that. It's, back to that handle hard better, but just what, we need to make uncomfortable comfortable, and just pushing ourselves through. And again, you'd see a lot of change in people that come on board with you, as from what they were when they started to what they're doing now. Like, and that would be very rewarding too.
Yeah, 100%. It's very rewarding. If I look at some clients where they started and where they were at, some starting out, some like lifelong martial artists, and just that different perspective, different take on marketing. It always starts with marketing, but marketing creates problems that need solving. That always leads to conversions, sales, and then obviously got retention. Like, retention is the biggest thing, but to get that front end right and really challenge beliefs and charge the worth, keep doing that. There's a lot of depth and work to be done there, and it's not. I know marketers love to make it all sound easy.
It's
simple, but it's definitely not easy, right? Because it's just the depth. I mean, if you just take all the martial arts analogies, I mean, you learn to punch on day one, and 10 years later, you're still trying to perfect this punch. There's depth.
It's just that constant chip away. It's just, I say to people, you've just got to do it every day, every single day.
There is one shortcut. I do feel there is one shortcut, and the only shortcut you have is to follow people who've done what you've done, or someone that's helped someone else get where you are. Sometimes it's hard to look at. I think there's a bit of a gap as well where you look at it and say, well, XYZ has 5 schools and 2,000 students. I should be doing that. He wasn't doing that got him there. He was doing this.
That's one. I was just about like this, you would see it now. Because I mean, like when I started teaching martial arts, to have a full-time centre in Brisbane, even just a space or like a shed or an address, that was rare. I reckon probably in the mid-90s, I can think of probably 4 or 5 that had an actual space. Now you have people, that's their first step. They're getting spaces, they're doing this. Would you say, I mean, from your experience, patience is some things that we need to, these guys like, it's been 2 months. Why don't I have 300 students? And I say, because it's been 2 months. And that's why.
With all things, right? I think if all martial arts owners had to just live their martial arts philosophy in business, I'd probably not have a business.
That's right.
Because it's really just that level of resilience. Now, if I say there's a shortcut, well, there is 2 paths, right? You can go the hard path, and you can go the easy path. And the only easy path is, well, you grab the lessons that were learned from someone else, and that's got a plan to take you there.
Yeah.
The right things at the right time. Sequence matters. I think sequence matters. If I could tell a quick story, I'll go back to this. When I started helping martial arts owners, I knew Google AdWords. And Google AdWords was, I took the hard path, right? I bought a book for $17. I cringed spending $17 on a book. And then I started running ads. And it's not like Facebook ads today where you can put something up and get a message and you've got a lead. It was, you had to build a landing page, you had to get 100 clicks and then go and look at your data and then optimize. So it was this never ending track of throw money at stuff. And when you don't know what you're doing, it's hard to throw money at stuff. And I did that till I spent, I was down to my last $300 that I was ever going to invest in a business. And then I made a sale for $37. And it was the best $37 I've ever made, because
I love the way you even know the amount. It was $37.
Yeah, because it was $37 and I got 100% commission of it, right? Somebody in the States, I was in Perth, when I was legal, paying tax, somebody in the States bought this book that I've never seen or knew, and they bought it from an ad, from a page that I created. And that was like, whoa. And then I spent another $30 and I made another sale. And all of a sudden I was in business. But it was a hard path, right? If I had money to invest in a coach, or somebody could show me, well, hey, actually, all this money that you're spending right now, we could shortcut that. And it's never completely, the shortcut isn't without obstacles of itself.
No.
But at least if there's some data to work with that, well, hey, this happens to work in this way, that's better. And that's, I think, is one thing that I'm always trying to refine is, how can I get the result quicker? When I started, I was the website guy. I developed websites for guys. And I believe that taking traffic from Google to a website was the best way. The problem was the delay in getting that done.
Yeah.
New website, traffic. And so when I discovered how to do Facebook ads in a way that, well, I can put the ad up. You don't even need a website. You can have a conversation with someone. The minimal amount of effort could be done.
Yeah.
Start having a conversation. Can we just sell conversations? That's where I really turn the whole system around. Now I'm looping back to that full circle with all that, but that was a big realization for me. Well, can we just get someone the result quicker? And so that's the first thing that we try and do is like, well, can we just get a good offer? Can we put it in front of the right people? And can we do the simplest way of following up? Forget everything else.
Remove all the bullshit.
Yeah. Forget what every other, and sometimes marketers say, oh, you need a website, you need this and this. Well, yeah, you do later, but get your message right. And sorry, I hate the fact that you've got these agencies that promise the world and give this perception that you don't need to understand your message, and they will call the leads for you and they'll do this. And it creates this level of codependency.
Yeah.
Where you're always at the mercy of the next hire, the next agency that's going to magically build your business. So, sometimes the path we take is probably not the path that everybody wants, but it's definitely the path that everyone needs.
Exactly. And I think, it's that, it's that learning, always learning too. Like, I just love the way you keep referring back to this coach, my coach, that you're providing all this experience to people, but you're still gaining experience yourself.
100%.
3 pieces of advice to people that are finding reasons to not back themselves, to instead back themselves.
Number 1, read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Okay.
Have you read it?
Yep. Yeah, I have.
You're right. So that, if I ever think of a guy that go read the book for anyone listening, but this guy was put in like Nazi death camps and had to find joy in a bowl of mud water with a fish head for lunch. He just had one belief that he's got to get through this so he can document the story and help people. So if you ever feel like life sucks, pick up the audiobook or read that book.
Very good. Very good recommendation there. I'm proud of you. Number 2.
If you've lost hope, take focus away from yourself and just go and help someone else.
Okay.
Forget about you and find someone else that you can help. And number 3, there's a lesson in everything. So in hindsight, if you're dealing with something right now, there's a lesson that's going to come up like in the near future, 6 months down the line or a year, you're going to say, okay, that's why that happened. So if you had to step outside of your situation, honest with yourself, like, what is that lesson you've got to learn now?
Yeah. And I guess going back to those things, like you said about helping somebody, I read it somewhere, like, the amount of endorphin or dopamine release you receive from just being kind to someone is a real natural high, and it just puts things back into perspective, doesn't it?
100%.
Okay. Very good. Well, number 10, a quote to live by.
Right. I don't have many quotes, but I've got one, and I'll have to give you some context. Quote is, do the work once.
Okay.
Context is, it's easy to have a system or have a thing, and you keep doing the work, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you had to step back, zoom out, build the framework, build a system, kind of have no work without the framework. Like, have the framework, have the process, then do the work. Because then the work. So instead of doing things on repeat and building things, can you just zoom out, create a system, simplify it, and do the thinking once, do the work once. So within the work is doing the thinking. Because if you really think about it and everything's been thought out, now it's kind of like you're just a train on the train tracks getting to the station.
Do you find now, because again, you are so into, IT and all that, do you find that's hard? That might be hard for people to do now, because as soon as they try and physically get into something means they got to put all that other stuff and distractions out, do you find that might be harder to do than maybe ever before?
With distractions?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
It's like you'll be right into something, trying to really, and again, like we were talking about something earlier that I got to put together, and then it's like you get a Facebook message, or you get, the email chimes, and all right, so you got to like try and shuttle that down. But yeah, there's just, have you said that the way that, what am I trying to say? If we just lock down and do something, like I said, it's done. We've only got to do it the once,
I guess, and what goes with that is, like, can you build an asset? Like process and standard operating procedure, SOP, like that's an asset. If you can document something, get it out of your head the way you want it, it's never going to be perfect. Like, I mean, that's why I love Google Docs, because it just ever evolves. But the quicker you can get it out of your mind and then add the nuances to it, it makes it simple for you and for you to take a step back out of your business, because people are doing it. It also takes the blame away from people, because it's always the procedure's fault and not the human.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be the human's fault too, right? If they don't apply it. But the first thing that, when things go wrong with things that we do, I'm like, where's that in the SOP?
Yeah.
It's not, okay, can you add it in? Great. It is, okay, well, why was it skipped? So it just adds that level of responsibility to, the process has got to live outside a human. Because if that human goes, and that's the human that knows, has the knowledge and the expertise to do it, especially because I guess maybe it's a little different, because I've always been online and I've never had anybody in my office, and I've always hired people in different countries and online. So just tightening up those systems and making sure everything is a safe place to live, everything's got a process and a way that it's run.
It's definitely something that I know I got to work on, because there's so much up here that is not here. But we'll get better at that as we go. Well, that was a good chat.
Great.
Yeah, I think, as I said, like we said at the start, there will be people listening to this that know you in one plane, but now there's all these other things, and I think that's the interesting thing. Like, there's so many different sides to us, and just because, it's that thing, like, just because we do a job doesn't mean that we are that job. There's so many other moving parts. But Georgia, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I know you're very busy. I know you have probably a few more hours of online stuff to do today. But I really appreciate your time, mate, and thank you for everything you're doing for the martial arts community.
Oh, thank you, Kyl. It's been a pleasure.
So that is another episode done. If you like what we do and you'd like to listen to more, you can go to listen to us on Spotify. We have our YouTube channel. George, we'll have all George's contacts up on this podcast if you'd like to get in touch with George personally and chat to him more about stuff and things. But give us a like, a share, a follow, and that'll be it. George, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
It's lunchtime where we are, and we will see you guys later. Bye-bye.
There we go. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Maybe you learned a thing or two about me, good or bad. I don't know. Would love to know your thoughts, though. If you want to share some feedback, I'd much appreciate it. You can, few ways. Take a screenshot of this podcast where you listen to it in whichever format and tag me on the socials, or just find me on Facebook, facebook.com/George Fourie, or just go look me up, send me a friend request, and would love to chat and hear your feedback. Awesome. And if you do need some help growing your martial arts school in the sense of strategy, digital marketing, business growth, bit of automation, getting your time back, would love to chat. We've made a few changes on how we onboard and work with martial arts school owners. So currently we are not accepting new clients, but you can go to the waitlist. jump on there and we'll let you know when we have a spot, and we can tell you all the details of how it works and see if it's a right fit for you. So you could go to martialartsmedia.com/waitlist and just jump in there, leave your details, and we'll reach out to you when we have a spot available. Anyway, that's it from me. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.